Hey Twitch, we are back for episode session 100 of Intro Beginners. I'm Kevin, and here's the rest of our cast that may have been watching for 100 sessions or so. Maybe you haven't, but we're glad to be here. One final go around. We got Allison, we got Josh, we got Jimmy, and we have Travis, our DM.
And of course, our wonderful fourth player, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the tentative plan for tonight is we're going to do some epilogue framing and find out what happened to our intrepid adventurers after the adventure stopped, and see a few things. I don't know. Travis has stuff in the store, so I'll let him frame it.
Yeah. So, where last we left off, our intrepid adventurers had finished their latest and possibly greatest quest. You guys have made your way through a secret magical tunnel in the swamps of Cien. You've come out somewhere on the other side that you now know is in the volcanic Isle of Laurent. You guys made your way to the mines that were holding several of your friends prisoner. You managed to free the people enslaved by the Black Fang. You managed to defeat the dragon's bodyguards, and you managed to engage in furious battle with the great Black Dragon herself. There were some losses, there were some casualties, and the group made it out victorious, but not unbloodied. You guys managed to rescue an unexpected guest of the Black Dragon. You guys managed to find and pull out of the swamp the High Counselor of Cien, the Elven man, Lord Curzon Tegan. Someone you've met before, though he doesn't seem to remember you.
Maybe met before.
Yeah. 1 second. As you're going through, I think we see the scene from above of you guys retrieving Lord Tegan and walking out into the swamp. You have a close call or two with some rather large reptiles. The island itself is known as one of the few places that houses a natural dinosaur population. But we see several, walking scenes of you guys going through the swamp and then back down through the mine, back up through the magical caverns, and out the other side, which takes you back to the border of Ariadnish and Cien. And when you get out, you make your way back out the swamp and are reunited with some old friends. Waiting just outside the area that was impassable to them is Lady Lysantha, along with a couple of your furry friends, Swiftwind the Pegasus and Firefoot the horse, as well as your other unnamed and slightly less important animals. There's kind of a quick scene between you guys and Lady Lysantha, the ancient dragon hunter and one of the last known dragon knights who was part of a party that defeated a dragon 150, 200 years ago. And she is naturally surprised to see Lord Tegan. But as you guys present the evidence that you found in the dragon's lair, it becomes pretty obvious what happened. And we see you start making your way towards Cien. Along the way, Lord Tegan and Lady Lysantha direct you to what they think is a reliable method of contact. And you guys are met in the dead of night outside a small elven settlement by members of the Dina Naya. Do you guys remember who they are?
Assassins
Jimmy,
for hire.
yeah. Assassins for hire. A group that you guys actually ran afoul of some time ago, murdering several of their members inside CN and finding a couple of people stuffed in boxes in their wagons. Turns out that was them. They were smuggling refugees. It was actually a job you did for Lady Nephish, the dragon in disguise. So yeah, you guys had been tricked by her into fighting these opposing assassins, and that's actually how you got your sword reward that Fawn so famously used.
Yeah, about that.
So so they explained that they had been suspicious of Lord Tegan for some time, and his alliances with the dwarves in the Smoking Foothills, the enemy of Fawn's people.
I should have reached out to them. They might have streamlined this whole process.
Yeah, the problem is you weren't in too well with your uncle, or he wasn't a big fan of you, I should say. Not to mention you kind of fucked up some of their plans, and he sort of held you at knife point. Anyway, we see them smuggling you into the capital of CN, and I think there's like a several days later camera swipe of you guys entering the main council chamber through one of the hallways from each of the councilors' offices comes into the central chamber throughout a different hallway. And you guys are basically smuggled through Lady Sudaril's office into the High Council chamber. We see Durian and Caben and Kendra and Fawnlin kind of flanking Lord Tegan as he comes in. And Lord Tegan, sitting at the high table, there's kind of a silence that falls over the crowd. Lord Tegan stands up at the high table, and he and several of his guards immediately bolt out the back. They slam through a door, rush through a hallway, turn a corner, and there stands Nina, scythe ready.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I think like the camera stops on an image, and there's like several yells and screams and the clattering of weapons and armor. And then we get a black screen with the white letters, 2 months later. And you're all sitting in Lord Tegan's office. I think you're all pretty well healed up and well dressed for the occasion. What would each of you dress in if money wasn't an option and you could adorn yourselves with whatever finery was needed?
So much frippery. Oh, I've got lace. I'm just flowing with lace.
Oh my
Is
gosh.
that over your already flowery armor? Because your armor is quite a thing to behold.
I actually, if it's 2 months, whatever the special day was, I had something commissioned that like a brocaded coat that like matches my breastplate.
Nice.
And
yeah.
I've got sprays of kerchiefs and stuff from my thing.
gosh.
I've got really, really tight pants on. And I have
They're
a
outlining
rake.
the future of the House of Burr.
Yeah, I have like a rake, a rakish hat on with a large feather. And my long hair is tied into a ponytail in the back.
Yeah, your finally regrown hair. Do you have your like house sigil on anywhere?
Yes.
Yeah, and what does that look like? Did you ever decide on one, or was that something Durian like? Did Durian decide over 2 months? He probably had a lot of time to think about this.
I decided. Durian had already figured it out. Jimmy decided and has since forgotten, but I'll make it up on the spot. It's more fun that way.
Yeah.
It is a flute and vines that grow around the flute.
Nice.
That end in like musical notes at the end.
Nice.
So,
Kind of reminds me of the fight with the Fae with the flute.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and definitely represents your talents. Nina, how about yourself?
So Nina's is probably sort of an updated version of what she wore in Politeness, where it's probably a cloth, like similar outfit, but this time it's adorned in red and maybe has silver trim or something.
Sure. So are you going in a dress? Because wearing like well-made armor would be completely appropriate, and you have dragon scales from which to make armor, if that's something you so.
Yeah. Okay. So quick revision. So definitely dragon armor for sure.
Yeah. Are you like full-on black dragon scale plate?
For the most part, yes. There's sort of a edition where I'm actually wearing a cloak that's red instead.
Of course. Yeah, because black and red, I mean, you look every part the scythe-wielding 5'4" Death Knight.
Cute
Awesome.
little Death Knight.
Awesome. Yeah, do you have any, like, adornments, any jewelry or anything over that?
No, Nina's not really a jewelry type person because
Yeah.
even though we could probably wear anything we want, Nina's
Sure.
not like a noble or anything. So
Yeah,
if
you're,
anything,
you're, you're more of well-armed. Do you have, like, a pair of daggers that were found in a dragon's ruin on its altar, maybe?
no, I imagine Durian's not those. I
Okay.
think the only thing
Durian
is since
hasn't
Nina
given you
doesn't-
any of the wealth.
Yeah, like the only thing might be since Nina doesn't wear a helmet is she might have a rather ornate hairpin put into her hair.
Nice.
That's probably about it.
Yeah, something to tie it back. Awesome. Faunolin, how about yourself? What does Faunolin dressed up look like? I've always wondered this.
So I'm not going to give any spoilers, but the way I always imagined dressing, or Funnelin dressing up, is exactly like what Daenerys wore last night for Game of Thrones season 7. I'm not going to give any spoilers, like I said. It's just the outfit. So I will link the image.
I will not look at it.
It's literally just the outfit. So it's basically like a
Don't look at Skype.
it is a very long, almost like tunic where it splits at the legs, so she's wearing pants, so you could see the pants out from under it. It would basically be very dark and ornate and have like accents of almost like scales. Doesn't have to necessarily be dragon.
You have plenty of dragon scales if you want.
I know, but she wouldn't go too all out.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
she would have those hints in there. So it would be very dark, like a black or dark green. Her hair would probably be pulled half back and in a lot of braids. And she most likely would have perhaps gotten her weapons kind of, I guess, is there a word to say, like made more ornate, like the handles and whatnot?
Yeah,
She would probably do that.
Yeah, you could probably have, because you had like a good cache of magical weapons. You could definitely get them like cleaned and polished, and perhaps like have the hilts redone in a little more fancy of a manner.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
she would essentially be doing that to make the hilts look nicer, or if the scabbard is, dirty or, had gotten destroyed in any way, that would have been replaced.
Yeah.
So she would definitely have gotten nicer barding for Firefoot.
Of course.
Firefoot is her main way to travel, so she would gotten very nice barding for her, probably in colors to match the Skylance that she has.
Nice.
So it'd be,
Nice.
Sky blue with accents of white and gold.
Awesome. Yeah, and do you have like your army sigil on there, or a design you made up, or is it just kind of the colors and?
It would mostly just be the colors that would be the focus. Her deity is Halmir, but she doesn't. She's not like super religious or anything, so she would probably just do. If there was any design pattern in them, it would be kind of like vines and trees.
Sure. Yeah. Nice. Probably on like the leather straps going down to hold on. All
Yeah, definitely nice decoration on the leather, but she wouldn't be like going all out with her city or her deity or anything like that, or the military background.
Yep.
It just kind of reflects her and her background, and that's it.
Yeah, it's more of a personal accomplishment. So Cabin, last but not least, you've had 2 months to clean up. Have you gotten the dirt out from under your fingernails or what?
Maybe at some point, it's probably crept
At
in a
some
little
point?
bit again.
Yeah.
No, Cabin.
You had a bath last week. It was fine.
I had it last week. I think Cabin more or less goes with what he's been wearing the whole time. Like he gets his clothes and armor cleaned up, but it's pretty much the same. I think we had a black leather kind of look for him that he had. However, he does get a new quiver with made of dragon scales.
Nice, yeah. Awesome. Cool. So I think we see the 4 of you parading in. Cabin, you've got Hedwig balancing on your shoulder. Fawn, you're leading Firefoot in. She's all adorned for the occasion. Behind you, walking himself in, is Swiftwind. He's got a nice, just kind of like a hanging cloth tabard that's been, fitted to an animal of his shape. And it's got the sigil of Sir Durian's house, as well as the sigil of Lord Tegan's house. And yeah, I think you're met at the door by a similarly decked out Mizudi and Kendra. Would Thea have attended this? Or would she have headed back to inform the generals?
I think that she probably would be in attendance for a day and then gone back to spread the information.
Mm-hmm.
She just wouldn't, stick around for any parties or anything that might be going on.
Yep.
Be there for show.
Sure. So Mizudi is adorned in kind of loose and very deep red robes that curl around her armor. She's got several bone and feather fetishes hanging all over, and looks surprisingly well dressed for the occasion. Meanwhile, Kendra has washed, but she's refused to repair or repaint her armor at all since her friend had died in the swamp. She's wearing it battle scarred. Maybe a couple of the dents hammered out, but otherwise unchanged. And Mizudi gives you a smile. Kendra just kind of a somber nod, and all of you head in to the main council chamber of Cien. And the door opens, and there's kind of a fanfare played on not trumpets, because that's not very elven, but probably wooden reed flutes and a couple of well-made oboes. It's very it's very beautiful. And in the center of the council chamber is a massive obsidian carving of a black dragon. One you've seen before. It's been removed from its former housing. And above and behind the High Counselor's chair sits a mounted dragon skull. One with curving horns and a very large maw, somewhat broken by the piercing through the bottom and top of the skull.
Nice.
And as you enter, High Counselor Tanev Sudaril stands and welcomes you all forward. She says, "It is a great day that our champions have seen fit to join us in. Please enter, brave knights." And she looks around to the other counselors. Some faces you recognize, some you've met in passing over the past 2 months. And one notable absence from the table is Lord Tegan. He's instead standing by the side with the recently returned diplomatic corps. When he got back, he abdicated his position as he kind of didn't really earn it, and has worked for the past 2 months to share the evidence that you've gathered and to bring an end to the hostilities in the Taurus-Palatinus War. Yeah, so I think the High Counselor, whom you've helped in the past, you rescued her daughter from a burning pirate ship. She beckons you forward and says, "Sir Durian, I believe you were, if you'll excuse me, the leader of these brave knights." She kind of like invites you to make a statement to the court.
I strut forward and give a bow, and I look up. I recite a carefully prepared poem for the occasion, short, brief, something classic. It's very fitting. Actually, they're all beguiled or whatever. I cast on the room the. but regardless, I say that, and then I look at Fawn, and then Nina, and then Cabe the longest, and I say, we have come a long way, and we have rid the world of a dark force, and yet I look at the counselors one by one. There are many dark forces left through which this august body and others could stand against as a beacon of hope for the low and highborn alike. Let us not forget our purpose. We did something wonderful 2 months ago, and before that, and I like to think of that as a lineage of bravery and sacrifice. Some who, and then looking at Kendra, some who have paid the ultimate sacrifice in order to achieve this end. Let us not let politics of nation or birth prevent us from achieving these goals, if I may be so bold to say, High Counselor.
Yeah. She nods, and I think as you look at Kendra, she like ruffles in a little pouch by her side and pulls out like just a small bunch of wood violets and puts them beside her ear, kind of wipes away a bit of a tear, nods, and the High Counselor says, "Yes, I'm glad to report that Lord Tegan is in his new station as our chief diplomat has finally brought an end to the war between Palatinus and Taurus. It took quite some time to convince King Henry the Bold that he was being deceived, but in the end, Lord Tegan was successful. And you all, we can't thank you enough for your service. Some of you were before, but as of this day, you are all High Knights Draconis of CN. And I believe we have some rewards to present to each of you." And she like nods, and a door opens to the side, and smiling, just beaming at you, practically bouncing on the balls of his feet, comes Llewellyn. And he strides out. "I've been waiting for this day for so long. You can't imagine when they commissioned." Apologies, High Counselor. "For Sir Durian Burr, an item that I think I may have sold him originally, but something that I was recently graced with a request of the High Counselor to make more appropriate to a man of his station." And he pulls out a kind of a long, thin box, and an apprentice kind of helps him carry it up in front, and he pops it open, and he pulls out your sword, your Carouser's retort. He lifts it out of the case. It is now much different than it looked before. It had kind of a rusty spout on the end of the hilt, and was encased in kind of scuffed leather in the grip. It's now a beautiful gleaming silver blade, encased with several black scales and obsidian jewels. And he says, "I present to you Sir Durian's retort." And he holds out the sword to you.
Durian's best moment right now. A weapon named after him.
I look at him and I just shake my head and I say, "I was wondering what you were doing with those ingredients. Never mind." I take it and I.
Yeah, you.
There's like a shum, there's probably a high-pitched whine in the air as the foil.
Yeah, it vibrates slightly, letting off almost a musical note. And he smiles appreciatively, says, "For this one, it's kind of hard to wrap." And you see like a long pole arm with a massive wrapped paper covering the blade. He says, come on. And he pulls it up and unwraps it and holds out to you, Nina, and says, "To you, my dear, I present the Dark Eclipse." And he holds out a reinforced and redesigned version of Eclipse. It seems to pulse and almost vibrate in your hands as you grab it, Nina. And its blade doesn't shine and doesn't reflect the night. It's almost as though it absorbs light as light comes near it. It says, "Don't worry, my dear, it's safe for you to use." And he gives you a big ol' elf wink.
I just give him a very respectful bow and a wink back at him.
Do you give him an elven nod?
No, I don't think Nina's gonna even try.
It's very complicated for a human.
And for
Definitely.
you, my dear, he points to you, Fawn, and he says,
Me?
"For you, my dear, I think it's something old, something new, something definitely not borrowed. But it does have a
But it's
gem that's blue." And he opens up another long, thin box and pulls out Lady Nefish's rapier. And he says, "Finally managed to remove that pesky little bit of magic she put on it. Not only that, but I've reinforced the existing enchantments on it." And he kind of twirls it around, and a little bit of snow falls off the blade as it glows. And he says, "Still adamantium and still sharp enough to pierce any non-living armor." And he holds it out to you.
Fawn
as
is freaking out silently. You could see like she's just really fidgety and just very like out of
She-
character for her. She's very excited.
Yeah.
Does she immediately stab people and revel in
No.
not turning into a dude?
No.
Yeah.
She's
So
very, very visibly excited.
he holds it out to you and he says, "I think it would be a perfect match to that handy little rod of yours. They'll be calling you the Ice Warrior before long."
Yep.
Yeah.
Vaughn is kind of speechless.
Yep. He nods and motions forward kind of a flatter, longer box, and he pulls out from that a familiar two-handed, hand-and-a-half bastard sword, and he holds it out to Kendra, and he says, "To you, my dear." Sorry, not Capen yet. He says, "To you, my dear,
A sword?
I know you didn't want anything fancy, so I stick to something you might know." And he looks over at a wall, and like several people clear the way, and he slashes with it, and a crack of lightning rings out, and like strikes onto a board about 30 feet away. And he holds it out to Kendra, and she just kind of nods, a bit of a half sad smile on her face, and then she quickly sheathes it and puts it on her side. Says, "Oh, and last but not least, this one's one of my favorites. You know, there wasn't much improvement to be done. I couldn't see the best way to go about this. but I think I've managed something especially useful. And he pulls out, which you all lent to him these items. He pulls out a rune Anyamrosa, the early morning rain. Pulling out your bow, he hands it to you, and you can see that that it's been like kind of refined and slimmed down in areas where it's a little more ornate in others. And he says, "This, my friend, this will strike a creature at any distance, nearly without fail. It'll use the skill that you have and strike at the heart of your enemies." So he hands you your bow, and you feel almost a thrum of power as you grip it in your hand. And you feel almost as though you could shoot something at your max range without suffering any penalties.
Oh, what does mine do now?
Love it.
They're all more powerful versions. And
Got
if
it.
we ever should happen to do a one-shot, I would be happy to introduce you with the specifics.
Okay.
So yeah, he nods to you all and then turns back to the table and with a very like foppish bow says, "Hi, counselor," and he like steps back to the side with his assistant. And Lady Sudril kind of goes through the pomp and circumstance of having you all pinned with medals and giving you all a vast sum of gold, some of which was the result of the items taken from the Dragon's Keep, and some of it was a well-deserved reward for your actions and bringing about a swift end to the hostilities and the imposter. And she invites you all to kind of make a sort of the closing statement. So she looks around like at the group of you and then invites kind of each of you in turn to say something if you so wish, or to defer to Sir Durian if that is your desire. She kind of like looks at each of you and remembers after having hired you. Kind of smells, not the best speaker, sort of a little rough around the edges.
Caven defers to Durian.
Fawn is not the talker in these kind of situations. She would defer to Durian, the unofficial party leader.
Yeah.
Official,
So,
unofficial.
And I think it's
what is the tenor that she's looking for right now?
so this is it's kind of a mix of like formal, like we are giving you these very formal rewards, but she's treating it casually as though you're a group of not necessarily like equals or friends, but people that are well in her favor, and she speaks to you using your first names.
Okay.
Giving you respect even though you're, not noblemen of Cien.
So I'm not going to cut anybody out, but I step forward and I look around and I see like Caven going and Fawn going,
Yeah.
and so I actually come back and I grab each of them and sort of thrust them onto the dais where we're all sort of presented.
Yeah.
And I lean into Caven and I say, "Just say a sentence or two. Just thank you. It's fine. We're good, man.
Yeah,
Just go. Say something."
And Caben, as you look out in the crowd, you see, like in the front is Filverell, a bit more heavily pregnant than we last saw her.
God, Phil will
And
get
she's
on
like,
with it already.
she's in a very nice dress. She's probably got on like a silver necklace that you recovered from the dragon's lair,
Nice.
and she's just smiling, like trying to contain her excitement. And Fawn, as you're kind of pulled in, you can see, like, as you look around, standing beside Lord Tegan and the rest of the diplomatic corps are several wild elf generals. I think you probably don't know many. You probably don't know many of them, but you do recognize your old like high commander.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And by reputation one of the others who was the basically the like secret intelligence general of your
Elven CIA.
Yeah.
Secret Service or something.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. And Nina, as you look out into the crowd, you can see several familiar faces. A couple of which are the Thorns, the Fae that you
Oh.
aided in the past.
Oh,
And they're kind of grinning up at you. They're just dressed in their leaf armor. Their thorn swords held below, hands on the bottom of the hilt. And they're beaming up at you as a fellow warrior.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
I guess Fawn then would, upon noticing these people that were important to kind of her culture and her home, would take a very deep breath that's very visible and kind of step forward with with a rapier in hand, kind of holding it nervously, and look around at everyone and say, I thank you all for giving me the opportunities that I've had and giving me this nice gift, and kind of like holding it up awkwardly. Yeah, yeah. And then kind of look over at Luan and go, minus the curse. I never thought that when I left home that this is something that would ever possibly happen to me. The things that I've been through and I've seen, I think I can take with me, and I can teach others how to fight battles that they don't think they're ready for, and take on tasks that they just never thought they'd find themselves in. Sometimes things motivate you from within, as was the case for me. But I think that we can all do good in our own ways, and sometimes leaving home isn't a bad thing. And she'd kind of trail off with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's, like, as you trail off, there's, like, a brief, like, second pause, and then a round of hearty applause from the crowd. Like, she's probably done.
Fun would visibly blush at this. It takes a lot to make her do that, but she's not used to being in front of that many people for these purposes.
Yeah, you can see all three of the generals applauding. Your former commander very vigorously, and the intelligence head just
The golf clap almost.
yeah.
I'm not used to this attention.
Yeah, so I think as the applause dies down, people sort of look at you, Caben.
Okay. Caben, I guess, steps up and says, well, when I set off to down south towards Palatinus, never thought I'd meet a dragon, but now we've slain 2 of them, the evil ones, should say. And the last one...
You see me going.
I don't see you because I'm looking forward. But yeah, and this wasn't the party I originally set out with, and I kind of look around and says, but it's the one I ended with, and we've lost some and gained some and made some new friends and sought revenge and stopped some evil from happening. I hope this lands in a better place now. And he steps back.
Yeah, and another round of hearty applause. Phil Varell clapping almost fervently. And I think the crowd kind of looks at you, Nina.
Yeah, so I'll take a step forward, and I'll look at Caben and then look back to them and go, bonds of old and new bonds that we formed. A great many things have happened as we've traveled. And through our bonds, we drew strength, and with that strength, we've helped people. We've slayed dragons and evil alike. So, with the new bonds that have formed, and is Lord Tegan here?
Yeah, he's standing with the other diplomats, off to the side. He's no longer a member of the council.
Yep. I'll sort of look in his direction and say, and as new bonds are formed, I hope it's enough to protect everything that we've worked hard for.
Yeah, and I think people give you a hearty round of applause as well. I think Kendra kind of clears her throat and says, "Well, I'm not good at this kind of thing, but I think the world's better off from what we did, and while it was unfortunate to lose a friend in the battle, I think it was worth it in the end." And she just kind of opens her mouth, closes it, opens it again, and then just kind of nods and steps back. Mizuti steps up as well and says, "This is not the last time we are going to have this issue. The scourge of dragons looking to influence humankind, elvenkind, and dwarvenkind is not going to stop here. I ask you all to be vigilant. Join us when we find another one that is overstepping its bounds. I do not think we need to rid the world of these powerful creatures. Just make it aware of their presence and their influence, and strike back when they are threatening our freedoms." She kind of gives a respectful bow and steps back. And I think everyone sort of looks at you, Durian.
Yeah, I step forward and I look around the room. And then I actually, in a way, step to the side and I'm going to address this to the party. And I say, "As virtuous men pass mildly away and whisper to their souls to go, while some of their sad friends do say the breath goes now, and some say no. So let us melt and make no noise. No tear floods, nor sigh tempests move, 'twere profanations of our joys. Tell the laity of our love. Moving of the earth brings harms and fears. Men reckon what it did and meant, but trepidation of the spheres, though greater far, is innocent. Dull, sublunary lovers' love, whose soul is sense, cannot admit absence, because it doth remove those things which elemented it." And then I look at Caben and each of them in turn, and I say, "But we by a love so much refined that ourselves know not what it is, enter assured of the mind, care less eyes, lips, and hands to miss. Our souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach, but an expansion, like gold to airy thinness beat. If they be two, they are two so as stiff twin compasses are two. Thy soul, the fixed foot, makes no show to move, but doth if the other do. And though it in the centre sit, yet when the other far doth roam, it leans and hearkens after it, and grows erect so that it comes home. Such wilt thou be to me, who must like the other foot obliquely run. Thy firmness makes my circle just, and makes me end where I begun."
Drink to that.
Prost. And at that, I think the crowd explodes into a somewhat unelven burst of applause and cheering. I think we see as though kind of a silent permission has been given. Phil Varel runs up and embraces you, Caben. We see out of the crowd, several people kind of coming up to you. Some of the generals start trying to talk to you immediately, Faunolin. We see Lady Lysantha come up. She's wearing her full dragon scale regalia, and walking with her cane and starts talking kind of somberly to Kendra. We see a healthy though shaggy-haired human man, sort of dirty blonde hair over a nice cloak and silver pin, ironically, as Lucas embraces Mizuti. And yeah, I think I think Durian, you're kind of left alone for a moment, looking out at the crowd as everyone's congratulating each other's. The Thorns are very eagerly chatting with Nina, trying to like. It's the first time they've gotten access to her, and they're trying to get the details of the awesome dragon battle. And you're kind of on an island alone, Durian. And how do we close out our campaign? Who catches your eye that you want to talk to in the crowd of people that's not otherwise occupied?
Who's got work?
I think you look around and the High Counselor
No, I know
gives
what
you a
it is.
nod and I think as she does, you look around. Llewellyn's grinning at you from one side.
Yeah, I look around and I smile and nod, and I reach into my little. I didn't bring my full pack, but I got a little something. I pull out the rolled scroll from my pocket of the translation, and I hold it up and I tap it to my head, and look at Llewellyn, and I sort of just raise my eyebrows.
Yeah, he nods and kind of beckons you over. And I think we see you unroll the scroll, and it's got the translation from the tablet to the riddle of the House of the Winds. And he looks over at you, raises an eyebrow, end scene. So yeah, I think over the next week, couple weeks to a month, you all filter out of the capital city of Cien. Do you guys go together? Do you go apart? Where do you all head to? And I think that's a good question to ponder while we take a quick break.
Sure.
The feels.
Got you.
The feels are a bit dusty in here.
Cut some onions. All right, Twitch, we're going to go for a quick break. We'll be back and see what happens to the rest of our epilogue. Thanks for watching.